Hillary Clinton coming off as an economic populist. Sounds like she's very much in line with President Obama. Let's bring in Heritage Chief Economist Steve Moore from Boynton Beach, Florida. All right, Steve, I'm saying that Hillary is kind of coming off as an economic populist in that she's going on about inequality. Why should CEOs make so much more than the average working guy? But if she does that, she's tied to the Obama view of the economy, which is tax, spend, regulate, and go into debt. Does she want that reputation round her neck?
Well, first of all, Lou, Stuart, I listened to your conversation with Lou Dobbs, and maybe Lou can explain to me why LeBron James makes 300 times more than I make, because that doesn't seem too fair to me. Look, I think Hillary is she's trying to thread a needle here. She has a lot of the economic baggage from this really kind of miserable recovery that we've seen under Obama, but she knows she's going to have to run, essentially with that Obama record. But what she wants to do, I think, and she'll do a lot more of in the months ahead, she's going to talk about the Clinton years, not the Obama years, and she's going to go back and say, I'm going to bring back the prosperity of the Clinton years. Here's the problem with that. I think the American people, Rubio said it very well yesterday, that Hillary Clinton is yesterday, and she's hearkening back to the past and not the future, and I think that's the way to beat her. But she's going to carry that flimsy recovery, the fact that American workers and the middle class have not had a pay raise in 10 years, that's going to be a millstone around her neck.
But, Steve, isn't Marco Rubio yesterday as well, in the sense that he's calling for tax rates cuts somewhat similar to Ronald Reagan, not as much as Ronald Reagan, but individual tax rate cuts, corporate tax rate cuts? You could say that's yesterday's policy from a generation ago. Yeah.
Well, that's a fair point, but you know what? It worked. We saw a massive increase. In the 80s and 90s, I think Lou got this wrong. In the 80s and 90s, the middle class did very well. They had a 30% increase in their real income. We created 40 million jobs during that period, so it was a very prosperous period. The problem has been the last 10 years where the middle class has made up no ground. That's happened under Bush, but even under Obama. And Hillary was giving speeches, Stuart, as recently as 6 months ago, saying, what's happened to the middle class in this country? And she's right. What has happened in the middle class? But you know what? Her party has been in charge for the last 6 years.
Have you, by any chance, heard what Christie is going to say today about Social Security reform? He's speaking in New Hampshire. We're told that he's going to say, look, if you're in retirement and you're making over $80,000 a year in retirement, he is going to cut your Social Security benefits. And if in retirement you make more than $200,000 a year, you get no Social Security benefits at all. Seems like this is tax the rich from a Republican who may well be running for the presidency.
Yeah, I hate that message. Look, people who paid into Social Security their whole life, people who paid in for 40 years or more, and if I calculated the amount I paid in. If you tell me if I make more than $75,000 or $80,000 a year and I get a cut of my benefit and all the money I paid in, how is that fair? If I was able to put that money into a personal account, I would be a pension millionaire. Most people watching the show would be. So I think the Republican message should be, look, we have a better deal for you. If you could put that money into a personal account and own it yourself, the government could never cut your benefits. And I think that's, I think it's going to be a very unpopular idea that Chris Christie is talking about. Now, I haven't heard it out of his mouth, so I want to hear it, but I just don't think there's any appeal to cutting Social Security benefits.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to be very popular with Republicans, Charles, but he might be appealing to the vast middle ground that's, angry at the rich getting Social Security benefits.
Testing has been brought up before. His numbers seem to be extraordinarily low. Usually these grandparents doing this $200,000 are paying for a grandchild to go to college. There's not a lot of money in the real world for someone who may be supporting 2 or 3 generations behind him. I think it's a third rail issue for him, and I think if these numbers are his numbers, he's in trouble.
Steve.
And look, Republicans should be saying, we have a plan that will give you higher benefits. Every American would have higher benefits with a personal account rather than the worst investment, Stuart. You and I and the people watching the show, the worst investment we're going to make in our life is the money that we have to pile into Social Security month after month after month after month. If the problem is that the benefits are too high, they're too low because Social Security is a terrible deal.
I'll be very interested to see how the world responds to Chris Christie when it's out there in public. He's going to say it today. All right, Steve Moore, thanks very much indeed. We appreciate you being with us.